right, and welcome back. Brace the Hammer, episode 4. We're back in style this week. We had an atrocious Pick'ems week. Once again, your man, everybody's favorite Spur, Johnny here. He ended 3-7, which is terrible. Shorja and Charlie, you guys both tied in 2-8. What do you have to say for yourselves?
Feeling good.
Listen, I've been last every other week, so I'm technically on an upswing here. So all I'm saying is, John, you better watch your back because I'm
I was
coming
gonna
now.
say you're like a stock that's just been tanking, but buy low is what you're saying.
Bro, listen, yeah, buy low, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm trained, you know. I'm starting the tracks. I'm now going to be like a flipping freight train. You're not going to stop me. Next week, I might even get 4 right. Can you imagine that? Oh,
No, I actually can't imagine that. You know why? Because there are no games next week. We are in an international break. What do we possibly talk about? Well, there is a lot going on right now. Of course, we have the international games. We have Cresswell going to England. We have a whole bunch of rumors to go over as far as Hammer's leaving, maybe Hammer's coming in. And we'll discuss a little bit where we are on the table and see what we think the future can bring for us. How's everybody's week? Pretty good? Everybody's good?
Georgia.
Sorry?
Yeah, that was weird. I'll just get rid of that. I was trying to transition while I was
Hang on,
switching tabs.
I'll do it. Yeah, it's been good. My voice is a little bit destroyed, so if I sound a bit odd, that's why. But yeah, I've been good. I'm very excited that a West Ham player has been called up in lieu of the other one who's been dropped.
What does this mean for England, for West Ham and England? Cresswell coming in. I mean, this is not just big for him, but it's kind of big for West Ham, right? I mean, what other West Ham players have come up in the last few years, Charlie?
Yeah, like we had Antonio recently,
Who sat on the
called up.
bench for?
Yeah, called up for a grand total of 3 games and played none. Played 0 minutes. Horrendous waste, but there we go.
I heard he had great trainings though. Great trainings.
Oh, dude, mate, trains like nobody else, but also never
Number
plays.
one training session.
Um, and then before that, I guess the last one would have been Stuart Downing when he was on his run of just unbelievable form, and in a very English typical manner, was playing, to the form of his life at centre attacking midfield, and so we obviously played him on the wing. And then before that, I think you probably have to go all the way back to Robert Green, maybe, which was obviously a couple of years before that. So, I mean, it's big that we've had 2 players in a row called up. Unfortunately, I don't particularly see Aaron Cresswell's chances of playing being any higher than Mikel Antonio's, given the fact that we now have 3 left backs in our squad. I'm not entirely sure what formation Gareth Southgate is planning to play, but I'm sure you can't fit 3 left backs in it. So we'll see. But I mean, for him, I'm really happy for him to get the call up because, to be honest with you, he deserves it. And I've said this before, and I know it's a little bit hyperbolic and biased, but I genuinely believe that Aaron Cresswell is the best left back in the league. So I'm really, really happy for him to get the call up, but I don't see him playing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, bias aside, you got to be happy for the kid, right? I mean, a few years ago he gets dropped by Liverpool from their academy, and then he kind of goes into like a mini depression. What do I do? And he's come all the way back to be playing for the English national team, and it's quite the story for him. It's quite the personal goal for him, and it's good for England. But you're right. There's 3 left backs. Where does he fit? How does he play? You have Scotland, of course, coming up tomorrow, and then you have Spain on Tuesday, which I don't know. Maybe if Southgate goes for a completely different look and just wants to see a different set of players, he might get in some action there. But if you're just talking about starting team for the next 2 games, does he get a chance? Does he come in? Maybe as a sub? I don't see him playing over Danny Rose. Georgia?
I think he definitely gives Danny Rose some competition, though, and that bodes well for England in the long run, right? Because it either makes
Competition
Danny
breeds success, sure.
exactly, yeah. So Danny Rose either gets better or which I know you're a little divided there because Danny Rose is your guy over at Spurs,
No,
but
no, not at all. I think he plays. I think he plays very well in the club level, and I think he could be better on the international level. And every time he gets the call up, and I get excited and I watch. And there were a few games, especially in the Euros, where I felt like he was he was attacking well, he was tracking back well, he was kind of the spark on the field. But other times he seemed to not be there at all. So I don't mind the competition. I'd like to see the best out of him as well.
Yeah, I think having both of them will do them both good. Because Cresswell, he's great. I really like his play. He's one of the players that really brought me into my West Ham fandom because I really like he's great at crossing. He can deliver the ball really well. Plus he had that crazy goal last year, if you guys remember. I think it might have been against Chelsea, where he just I think it was going. I don't know if it was against Chelsea for sure, but I do remember the.
Is it Leicester?
Yeah, it was against Leicester. Right, right. It's the one against Leicester. Um, he like, I think he was. It looked like a cross, and it just went in, and I was so. That was one of the most hype moments that because you know that was like during the title race, and Leicester dropping any points would have been monumental. So, yeah, I really like him, and I think that he's worked really hard, and I really think he deserves it. Now to get Mark Noble, or Mark Noble played. Mark Noble got something, right? Mark Noble did get a call up, or no?
No, never.
Okay. Well, now
He
for
was
Mark
under
Noble.
21 captain back in the day, but obviously he's not had a call up. I think the thing is with Aaron Cresswell is he's got Danny Rose and Ryan Bertrand in the squad as well.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, like, as highly as I rate him, the conventional wisdom is that Danny Rose is a better left back, and I think most people would probably argue that Ryan Bertrand is a better left back as well. And I think he's got more. I think he's got a chance of getting in ahead of Ryan Bertrand. But when it comes to Danny Rose, I think Danny Rose is kind of England's first choice. I mean, he wouldn't be my first choice, but I think I think for most people he is England's first choice.
Well, you're looking at three different English managers who had him as their first choice going back. So I mean, it's kind of. I would actually. I think right now I would put Cresswell ahead of Bertrand. And if we're talking about who starts tomorrow and who starts against Spain next week, I would say I would expect Danny Rose to start tomorrow against Scotland, and I would assume they're going with, I don't want to say the B team, but I think the sub team, and against Spain, because they're not going to play them twice within 5 days, and then have first team action again within the EPL and that next weekend. So I would be really, really surprised if you get 2 Danny Rose starts in the next 5 days. I would expect if Cresswell to not at least start, but to get some minutes at some point this weekend. You would have to think, right?
You'd hope so. I mean, I'd like to see him get literally. Listen, with Mikel Antonio's experience that's just happened, I'd like him to get any minutes on that pitch. I mean, ultimately for him, it's probably an amazing experience going to play with the England squad, getting into that regardless of whether you play or not. Obviously, it's 10 times better if you play, especially if you play against Scotland at Wembley. That would be just ridiculously big. But I think I really doubt that he's going to get any minutes whatsoever. And I feel a bit sorry for him in the fact that when Allardyce was manager, as much as I dislike Allardyce, I thought this might actually be the chance for someone like Aaron Cresswell to get minutes, because Allardyce really rated him and he was that sort of guy that worked under that system. But Gareth Southgate has it doesn't behoove him to do experimental stuff. He's there he's interim, and if he wants the job, he has to get results. And if he wants to get results, the easiest way to do that would be to pick who are perceived to be the best players. So it doesn't help Aaron Cresswell's chances of breaking the mold somewhat to get into the squad. But if he gets even if he had 2 minutes on the pitch, I would be elated. I would be 10 times happier than I would be regardless. But I'm just happy that another one of our players is getting a call up, because it means that they're not, for years it felt a little bit like England were ignoring us, and for years it's felt like that, and that now we've got yet another player in the squad. And so it's cool. Like you say, Mark Noble, I think he deserves an England cap. I don't think he's going to get one. I think he deserves one for all the years of service he's put in, and I think he's played at a consistently high level, but I don't think he's going to get one, unfortunately.
If we shift focuses to the England-Scotland game in general, Southgate said England losing to Scotland would be unthinkable. Harry Kane rushed his recovery time just to make the game. Is it as big as everybody's making it out to there, Charlie? Or I know historically, absolutely, of course, but from a qualifier standpoint, what's at stake?
Well, England are currently first in the group, and they are 3 points ahead of Scotland, who are fourth. qualifying wise, it's a bigger deal for Scotland than it is for England. I think England are going to comfortably qualify no matter what. I think they could lose this game and they'd still, just due to the level of opponents in the group, unfortunately, just because that's the way qualifiers go in European football. I think England will comfortably qualify. Although, having said that, we've obviously failed before, but I think this time it's almost a certainty. However, for Scotland, it's a big deal. Scotland, really, it's kind of almost make and break for them. If they don't get a result against England, then they could quite conceivably see their campaign already over. It's this game and the next one against, I think it's Slovenia for them in March. I think it's the next game. I can't remember exactly, but it's one of the teams. It's either Slovenia or Slovakia. I want to say Slovenia, but that's their biggest rival to get through. And so for them, it's a really big deal because they need to get the win, because that would put them in a really good position to actually go forward and get qualification. So for them, it's an even bigger deal. And, it is a big deal, England versus Scotland, although, that sort of, it's not as heated as it once was. You have people like Scott Brown who have come basically out of international retirement for this one match. And Scott Brown is a combative midfielder at his best, basically. So it's a huge deal in that sense. And, with everything that's going on politically, it makes it even more big of a deal. So it's going to be a heated, fiery game no matter what, but it's a big deal for Scotland especially. But for England, to be honest, I think we'll qualify regardless of what.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question whether or not England will qualify or not. I mean, they've even at the Euros, I don't think they lost or drew a match. They were almost perfect in qualifying. So you
10 out of 10.
Yeah, so you would kind of expect the same results. I think the issue becomes when they actually get to the big stage and people start really watching. That's when the problems usually come in. But just Cresswell aside for a second. West Ham, even though they've historically, I guess, been a little bit ignored by England, their players have not been ignored by the rest of their countries. We have Randolph, who's going to Ireland, Collins playing for Wales, and Bana in Italy, of course Payet in France, Kouyaté in Senegal, and Feghouli playing for Algeria, which brings me to Payet. I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm sure you did, of course. He told French media the other day, I think it was actually last week after the match, that he hasn't actually fully closed the door on a potential move in January. And we all know that PSG is just itching to get Payet in their midfield. Should we take this rumor seriously? Is this something that we really need to consider? What does that do for West Ham?
Sure, you can go first.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's maybe I'm a little pessimistic, but I definitely think that it's time to panic. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it's also the safer option, because if you think about the worst case scenario of him leaving, then I think you're more prepared to scout new players.
Right,
and,
hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So I think Bilic should start looking at his options. And I think when we were talking off the record about this, we talked about how, you compared this to Modric and Bale money, how Tottenham sold them off and then kind of were able to become a bigger, not a bigger club per se, but like they were able to compete in terms of money.
Yeah, they changed their identity in a way with that money.
Exactly. So, and you were saying that might be the case with West Ham and Payet. But I really think that he is their linchpin, and he is the person to attract other players towards West Ham. Like some of these players that came in over the summer, they were like, okay, so we want to play with Payet. We want to see him feeding balls to us. And that's why they came. So I think he's one of the reasons that they come to our club. Much like, and I'm going to bring up Arsenal again, but much like players come to play for the manager. They come to play for Wenger, and they have, regardless of what the media and Arsenal fan base have, whatever their opinions are, players do have very high opinions of him because he is, I don't know, such a good guy. But I'm getting off topic. So what I'm saying is, like, Payet is the reason anyone else would come to West Ham. So I think selling him off at this point would not be a good option at all. And I also think that the way that Slaven Bilic has spent his money over the summer, it seems to me that it's been kind of rash, and whatever money is given to him after selling Payet would not go well. And I don't think he has targets ready. I don't think he'd spend it well either. So it might very well turn into like a Soldado situation.
Thanks for that. Who, by the way, still actively roots for our boys in blue. So, I mean, it's kind of like a crossroads, right? I mean, you can keep Payet, try to make more promises. Dimitri said that he doesn't invest in a club. He doesn't follow the money. What he's always followed is the project and the vision. If West Ham can sell them on the vision and bring in some extra players before he decides that he really wants to go, that would that be? I mean, that obviously be more beneficial, and that's something that they would have to build on. Whereas we were talking about before, if they do sell Payet for an enormous amount, keep in mind Dimitri's not young. He's going to be 30 in a few months, or sooner than that, actually. So this is really their last chance to capitalize on the move if they really were going to move him. If they take the risk and try to go back for another European push, let's say by finishing fifth, making the Euros and stuff, this is kind of it for them. If they don't, if they fail at that gamble, and then they're stuck with someone who's 32, he's not worth the same as he was now. PSG's not going to come calling towards the end of someone's career. This is MLS time, So this might be the only chance they get. So I understand like the confusion and the uncertainty, but I don't believe that they should be cashing in their cards right now. I think they keep him. I think they sell what they can, try to pigeon some money away, and see what they can bring in to help Payet.
Yeah, Charlie. I think that in the summer he could have quite easily have gone for 16 million plus because he was just on that much good form and that well renowned. I think 60 million plus would have been an easy guess for him going to PSG. PSG were the only club I was concerned about Dimitri Payet leading to in the summer. I thought, the rumours of Real Madrid, Barcelona, teams like that, I was like, yeah, I mean, I could see Real Madrid with their sort of ethos and transfer selections, but PSG were the only ones I was actually worried about. But he stayed, it was kind of like a good faith thing almost, like, we put him on the global map in a way. I mean, obviously he put himself on the global map, but, we put him on the global map in a way, but I think for him, we probably sold him on the idea of, look, we're going to be playing in Europa League. You kill it again, you're going to be able to move wherever you want, basically. And I've sort of been kicking around the idea. I tweeted out after the from my Twitter account at King of Wham. I tweeted out after the last game that in the summer I wouldn't have wanted him to go unless it was for a ridiculously absorbent fee. I would not have wanted him to go. But I'm now starting to almost feel like maybe him leaving in January is actually the best idea. He is a wonderful player. He's just a literal joy to watch. But he is also a luxury player. And given how our club may be positioned in January, I don't believe we're in danger of going down still. Given how we might be positioned in January, we're not going to get Europe next year.
No, not at this point. I mean, we're pretty far down the table, hoping for...
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just not...
And even best case scenario, we win the FA Cup and get through that way. But even then, I don't think that's going to happen. So, I mean, we've got the squad to make a FA Cup run, but it might be wise now. He's nominated for the Ballon d'Or. He's nominated for FIFA Player of the Year. This could be the last chance we get to get any sort of significant money out of a transfer to Dimitri Payet. And so, like you say, it becomes, do we keep him and roll that dice? Because he is very useful. I imagine people like Feghouli when they said, okay, what can you offer us? We went, well, we've got Payet. Not to quote the song, but we've got Payet. And that's a very good thing to have. But do we make that choice? I don't know. And, you talk about Bale money. The one difference between Bale money then and Bale money now is that it gets you significantly less now than it did back then, which is ridiculous to say. It was only 3 years ago or whatever. But, how far would 50 million get you now in the Premier League in January, where prices are already slightly inflated anyway, or how much You know what I mean? So it's super difficult to say, but I'm erring on the side of it might be in our best interest to sell him.
Let me tell you who's linked right now on the rumor mill. Um, nobody knows how much truth is to this. Mandzukic from Juventus, Fabregas and Ivanovic from Chelsea, and Gabardini from Napoli have all been tapped, or at least rumored to be tapped by Bilic and West Ham to see their interest level in coming over in January, what the prices would be. If they were to pull off a big striker move, getting one of these Italian strikers, what do you think that would motivate Payet to be like? All right, well, now that we shifted our vision of the club, and now that I get a better idea of what your goal is, do you think he'll reinvest himself, or do you think he's already planning for his move? I mean, keep in mind he's loved in France. He plays well for that French team. I remember the first game at the Euros. I'm blanking against who it was, but it was a 0-0 draw. And
Romania?
was it Romania? Yeah, maybe. Um, and in like the 86th minute, he just drilled a curler, and it was
I think it was more like the 89th minute, honestly.
89th. Yeah, it was like right at the end.
I
And
got so hyped. It was insane. Like when that went in, it was like top left corner, and it was on his weak foot. It was just marvelous.
it was beautiful, and everybody was just
He was crying
yeah, it was a great moment for France.
so
It was
much.
it
Yeah,
was, it was a great moment in general. Um, and this was right after the
West Ham,
attacks too.
West Ham
Yeah,
Twitter lost their mind.
right, exactly. So I mean, I know a small part of him would love, club and country, right? That's what everybody plays for. Um, a small part of him probably may want to go to France, but if we can shift focuses and reinvest his interest into West Ham, I mean, this is where he originally made a name for himself. Is there any chance that we can get him to stay if we make a big move, or do you think his mind's already set?
I don't even think I want to double down on his position, and I've said it across several platforms. You know, I do videos for Hammer's Chat and all that, so I've said it across everywhere I could. My Twitter account, literally everywhere. I don't think who's up front is the problem. I'm adamant about this. That I think that the problem with West Ham right now is that we aren't supplying the forwards anywhere near enough, and we aren't supplying specifically Payet and Lanzini anywhere near enough. I think that the way we're playing, we're really one-dimensional, and that dimension is not working going forward, which shouldn't be the case. Because you think about it, and you have like either Edmilson Fernandez or Antonio at right wing back, you have Cresswell at left wing back, you have Payet and Lanzini just behind a striker, whoever the striker may be. That creativity should not be a problem in that team. There are options going forward, and yet they seem to be severely limited. Like when a team sits back against us, we cannot break them down, and that's a big problem. Payet is part of that, but even if we do make a big signing in January, which I doubt is going to happen, like I don't see how it's going to change the team. And I think from his perspective, if he's looking at it and thinking, right, well, do I leave in case I don't want to be in a relegation fight at 29 in the prime of my career? Do I leave in order to go to a big team like PSG, or do I stay? And I don't think getting a big name striker is going to help that whatsoever. To be honest, I think you could argue that having a big name, exciting person up front could inspire confidence in the rest of the team behind him. But I don't believe that's going to change much. And so I think, we have a chance of keeping him, but I think that's more at this point down to how much PSG are willing to pay West Ham than anything else.
I sort of disagree with you. In the last match, Fletcher played for 20 minutes, and in that 20 minutes, they looked like a different team. They were more active. He was moving the ball around. He wasn't just someone who was floating and roaming a little bit in front of the box. He was active in distribution, and he caused problems in the back line. I was really impressed. And in that 20 minutes, I saw the best West Ham striker I saw all season long, or the West Ham forward, I should say, all season long. So I feel like if they did get someone who can, West Ham's full of servicemen, right? They have tons of feeders. Like you mentioned, Cresswell, Payet, everybody. We're always in the attacking third. We're always sitting there. We're always trying to get in, and clinically, we can't finish right now. And I feel like if we just had someone who was really, really apt to doing those things, it would give us a different look. and it would make us more dangerous, and we would be finishing some of these uh, frustration that we've been incurring. Georgia, what do you think?
Dog in soon.
All right.
You barking? Awesome.
Well, I guess just to add to that, I guess that was my argument for Carlos Bacca in the summer. Is that dude is just a finisher. Like, you feed back of the ball, people put it in the net. Like, his shots to goal ratio is just lunacy. It's sheer
Colombia,
lunacy.
right?
Yeah, Colombia and AC Milan. Like, dude just puts the ball in the net. And so the argument, I guess, then becomes: are we capable of bringing in someone like that in January? And if Mandzukic is the best there is right now that we've got a possibility of bringing in, then I don't see that changing. That might be harsh, Mandzukic, but he's not getting any younger, and the Premier League's notoriously difficult to adapt to.
It's tough to adjust to. We know we're losing one striker, or at least the rumor is we're losing one striker. Zaza is set to get a 25 million bonus if he makes 15 appearances this year. He's already made 9. You said, Charlie?
Yeah. So yeah, if he makes 15 appearances, then we'll have to give Juventus 25 million in order to sign him fully, and that's mandatory.
Right, and we could all agree Zaza's not worth another 25 million just for a loan.
Definitely not.
No.
Okay, so we're at Zaza. So there's one striker. We have to bring someone. I know there's going to be like a lull, an adjustment period, but I think Mandzukic or Gabbiadini or any of these Italian strikers might be great. I mean, who else could you possibly think of off the top of your head that can come in, make a difference tomorrow for West Ham United at the forward position?
Charlie, go first.
Realistically, not. I know we were talking about FIFA before, but realistically, who could we tap? They probably be someone a little bit older, I'm guessing, with experience, hopefully in the EPL, that can come in. And keep in mind, Andy Carroll is going to be apparently fit in a few weeks. But
I mean, I was gonna say I would have said Balotelli if he wasn't having such a great season over in France.
sounds like he's having a great time in France.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So if it wasn't him, if we pipped him from Liverpool, that would have been good. I think he'd be decent. And he didn't produce at Liverpool when he was brought in, but I think that was more due to like Brendan Rodgers and like how clueless he is for bringing in Balotelli. But he's playing well, and I think he would thrive under like someone who's. I really think he would thrive under someone like Bilic, because he kind of seems more like a no-nonsense guy than Barrage ever was.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I'm a big fan. I like Balotelli a lot. I think if he ever decides to unleash his potential, he'll be a very, very dangerous player. But again,
It's the
a lot
consistency,
like,
I think, is the issue for most people.
a lot like Ravel Morrison. It's all down to him whether he ever decides to reach that level or not, and that's not going to happen, in my opinion. I like Balotelli a lot, though. I guess if you're looking at people who are possibly on the market, you could bring in. The argument could be made for Daniel Sturridge. I think he's too injury prone and a risk to do that with, but I don't think Klopp would mind letting him go if we were to get him on loan, which is going to annoy a lot of West Ham fans. But if we were to get him in on loan, that might be a way of getting around it. I imagine Liverpool would be willing to do something like that. The problem is I think Zaza is the level we should be looking at. Someone who has played for top clubs and maybe isn't their first choice or is on their way to get into that sort of stage. I think he's the level we were looking at, and he's not done well, but I don't think he's been given the best service, as I said. But if he was on the market, I would have said him. And so, looking outside of that, I'm not sure who there really is around, apart from someone like a Daniel Sturridge. I would have said Danny Ings if he hadn't got injured. Maybe we'd have to go down and look at someone like Benik Afobe, that sort of level, someone from that sort of club.
I've got a name for you.
Lay it on me.
Potentially. And I know he's been a little disruptive in the past, but he's young. He's played for the English under every team, so from 16 to 21, he's had multiple appearances.
If you're saying
goals.
if you're saying who you're gonna if you're saying who I think you're gonna say, I'm going to say no now, but carry on.
The suspense is killing me.
Who do you think I'm gonna? I want you to guess.
You're going to say Saido Berahino.
I am gonna say Saito Berahino.
Okay.
He needs a second chance. He needs to get out of West Brom, and I feel like any other team who would give him a chance, he could. He had a good season, and he's been proven. He's kind of a baby. He's immature. We all get that, but I feel like he needs a change of scenery. He needs someone who will tell him to shut up, and I think Billick will do that. And I think this would be a good second chance for him. No.
I kind of agree with you. Because I think he's really miserable. Who wouldn't be miserable under Tony Pulis?
I'm miserable just looking at him.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, give the lad like a little bit of, like, give him the benefit of the doubt, and then get him on.
They were asking for 15 million pounds last summer. This year, if he goes for anything more than 8, I would be absolutely shocked. His stock has dropped immensely. He doesn't get first team football. But he deserves better just because the talent is there. He's been put out to, it's a little sad. I feel bad for the kid. He's only 23. Isn't this something we could take a shot on?
When you're talking about a price of like 8 million, then it's worth a punt. But I feel like he's too disruptive. He, like you say, it's difficult not to be depressed under Tony Pulis for any number of reasons. Jesus Christ! But you don't go on Twitter and publicly call out your chairman and be like, "I'm not playing ever again for this club. Get out,"
right.
Because you didn't get your move. Like, and you can say he's immature, but it's
kind of a douche.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you're in, there's a reason he's not playing for West Brom. Like West Brom could use a striker like that up front, and he's not even getting a game there. And it's and he's had a very public falling out, so obviously that's what's happening. But in our situation, I feel like the last thing we would need, because we have a lot of strikers on the books right now, a lot. We have Carroll, Zaza, Ayew, Antonio's played up front before. We've got Fletcher, Martinez, we've got flipping Kieri, we've got Sacco, we've technically still got Enner Valencia. There's a lot of forwards at our club right now. We don't need another one coming in and just disrupting it. That's my opinion on that. He's got talent. He really does. And if he can stop being such a crybaby and actually sort it out, then, he could become a top Premier League striker one day. But until that
Tony
point,
Pulis he's changed his mind about him in the last year or so. He says he's become more mature. He's working hard in training. He's not tweeting as much. I mean, recently he's just been hurt, right? So I mean, if it's 9 million pounds, if you send Zaza away, right, and who knows if Carroll ends up in China? I'm sure he's not really going to go, but the rumors are there. Is the striking position that deep? And if they're not effective, does it really matter how deep the position is?
that's a totally fair point. But you have to remember as well, like money wise, where's this money coming from? And our owners, have been, have a reputation for being stingy in a lot of ways. But that's a lot of wages flying about. If you're sending Zaza back, that's another 5 million you have to give to Juventus to cancel the loan deal early. Then you've got, like, if Carroll goes and Zaza goes, then, maybe we bring him in. But then that leaves us with our top two strikers being Saido Berahino and Diafra Sakho. So hopefully they're not both dropping at the same time. And so we actually have someone to play up front would be the worry there. But if let's say in the world we bring in Saido Berahino, letting go of Zaza, letting go Carroll, go to China, maybe doing a swap deal for Diafra Sakho, that would be probably the best situation. But even then, I'm a bit worried about it. But, I'm also one of those people who says rather Morrison bird his chance. So,
yeah, and I don't really see them. I feel like in the last couple of years they brought in international players and not so much, brought in directly from English clubs. So I really don't think Berahino is actually going to happen. I just thought it would be an interesting, weird, interesting fit, one of those oddball ones. Let's talk about Carroll to China for real quick. Any chance that all this really happens? Any actual weight to this rumor. I feel like it's fizzled down this past week, but it was kind of big the week before. You see this happening? I don't.
Sure, did you want to go first?
No. That's all I have to say, honestly. I don't like it. It's just so preposterous at this point. Like, no, he's not going.
Not to be super contrarian today, but I feel like it could. You know, I feel like Andy Carroll is. Again, this is going to seem hyperbolic, but I feel like there's no better player in world football in the air than he is. He's just ridiculous.
Olivier Giroud.
Who? He's decent, but you know, Andy Carroll would probably just swallow him whole. Like, I imagine Andy Carroll would dislocate his jaw like a snake and just swallow him in one go.
I don't know, man.
And all right, let's one of the top players in the world in the air.
I'll take that.
Along with our boy Oliver.
Olivier.
Yeah, I can see it happening. I think that the argument against it is obviously he's not that brand name recognition, you know. But then you could say neither was Graziano Pella, and yet Pella still went there for a ridiculous amount of money. You could see the arguments against it. You know, he has a family. He's settled in Essex with one of the people from The Only Way Is Essex. They have a kid, so he's clearly settled with his family. And to all accounts, I mean, not maybe in the last couple of months, but all accounts, that's really helped his like mental side of his game really calm down. You know, he's getting into trouble less, all that sort of stuff. Although again, last couple of weeks especially have been a bit dodgy for him. So there's an argument against it. But you know, if you're a Chinese league team, if you envision it in your head, you can see Andy Carroll selling random Chinese products on television. You can just see that happening. Like, you can see that as a thing. And although he isn't like the greatest footballer on the planet, you can imagine a Chinese team going, actually, if we brought him in, he would absolutely annihilate people. Like, I think the potential is there. Now, whether the rumours of 300 grand a week are true or not, that's another question.
That's a little insane, isn't it?
However, I think it's more likely than you two do. However, I'd still probably give it a 50-50 chance at best. I'd say more 35, but you know, I think there's an option there. If there is any truth in the bid, if they do come in with the supposed £20 million bid, as has been reported by whoever it was, the Express, I think, you'd have to take it. You just have to. There's no, you know, making a profit on a guy that injury prone. There's no choice in the matter, in my opinion.
All right. Well, keeping with tradition, let's get some predictions, right? Georgia, England, Scotland. Give me a score.
England all the way for me. I think 2-0 England.
All right. What do you think there, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think Scotland are going to be really up for it. I think it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, even if it's not going to be a ridiculous quality game. I think it's going to be a proper old school fight almost. But for me, Scotland's defence just does not have the quality to stop England. I think they've got, like, in their back four, I think they've got 2 championship defenders, one of which isn't even a starter for their club. So I would be concerned for them on that point. And from what it seems, Gordon Strachan isn't the most on-point manager at the moment. So I'm going to go with 2-1, but just because I feel like Scotland are just going to fight for it, and I can see them getting a goal in that way.
Classic England, big stage. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for England. They'll win, but they won't make it pretty. I think it'll be, like you said, I think Scotland's going to fight. They always do. These matches are fun to watch, and I really look forward to it. Last match prediction, we're actually just going to throw it in for our American compatriots. USA, Mexico. Georgia, what do you think?
I believe that we will win.
My man.
I'm going to say 2-1 USA. With Pulisic scoring, because he's my boy.
Is that your goal pick of the week?
So yeah, that is. Yeah, him and like Bobby Wood.
All right, we don't need 2. Jeez.
Okay, just one. Scrap that.
Charlie, I know you're really in tune with American soccer, but what do you think? What do you think the source?
Oh man, I am the most into the USMNT.
Are you an American outlaw?
You missed the hashtag before the U. It's
sorry. Apologies. I'd probably be able to name more US women's players than I would men's, to be honest. But
They are better.
I, you know,
I disagree.
well,
Pulisic is a handsome dude.
Pulisic, you know, he could. No, I'm not going to make
You
that
went
joke.
to, you,
There was a joke, Brewing, but I'll leave it. You know,
I have no
Bradley-
interest, but I think he's a very good-looking dude.
I'm cutting all of this out, but keep going.
Bob Bradley is no longer there, but I'm still going to back his presence, his aura. I'm going to keep backing Bob Bradley 1-0 until he gets that win. That's carrying on into the men's team, despite the fact he's not been there in years. I don't care. So I'm going to say 1-0 to the USA.
All right. Bob Bradley may not be there, but the product of his loins is Michael Bradley, who will be starting in as a midfielder. I look. I believe that we will win. Also, I can't remember the last time we lost to Mexico in Columbus. It's like our home field. It's where we always play our big games. So yeah, I'm gonna go with. I'm not gonna say 1-0 because Mexico always scores. They always score. I'm gonna say it's 2-1.
Let's go.
US.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. And that is it from us, Brace the Hammer, episode 4. We really appreciate you guys listening in. And we will be back next week with a special guest from the Tottenham Hotspurs. Not going to reveal anything yet, but make sure you tune in. All right. Enjoy the games this weekend, guys. Take care. You guys can say bye, too. It's no big deal.
Viva Bob Bradley.
See you later.